Hey everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about 5 rare US quarters that look normal but are worth big money. Some have special errors, others are tied to history. You might even have one in your pocket. Let's check out these valuable coins from 1776 to 2022. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a coin that almost everyone in the United States has seen or even held in their hand before, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. It looks like a regular quarter at first, but some of them are actually worth thousands of dollars. That's right, what looks like just 25 cents could actually be worth over $4,000, and I'll explain how in the simplest way possible. This coin was made to celebrate 200 years of American independence. That's why you'll see 2 dates on it, 1776 and 1976. Most quarters only have 1 date, but this one is different because it was made for the bicentennial celebration. The front of the coin still has George Washington, just like any other quarter, but the back is special. Instead of the usual bald eagle, this coin shows a colonial drummer, like a young soldier from the Revolutionary War, standing with a drum at his side. There are 13 stars above him, one for each of the original colonies. It's a really cool design and easy to spot once you know what to look for. Now let's talk about where these quarters were made. The U.S. Mint made them at 3 different locations. If the coin has a little D letter on it, that means it was made in Denver. If it has an S on it, that means it was made in San Francisco. But if it doesn't have any letter at all, then it was made in Philadelphia. That's the one we're interested in today, the bicentennial quarter with no mint mark. Most of these quarters, even the ones with no mint mark, are still worth just 25 cents. That's because the US Mint made millions of them. They were everywhere. People spent them, saved them, collected them. But here's the twist, a few of them are worth a lot more. Why? Because of either minting errors or the perfect condition they were kept in. Let's talk about errors first. Sometimes when coins are made, things go a little wrong. The machine might press the coin off center, or part of the image might be missing. In some rare cases, the design might appear doubled, like it was stamped twice in the wrong spot. These are called error coins, and they're very popular with collectors. A rare error on a bicentennial quarter with no mint mark can make that coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And that's not just a guess, some of these have actually sold for as much as $4,500 at auction. Now let's talk about condition. Coins are graded by how perfect they are using a scale that goes from 1 to 70. A coin graded 70 is like brand new, no scratches, no marks, no signs of wear. It looks like it was never even touched. Coins like that are called mint state, and you might see a grade like MS65 or MS67. If your bicentennial quarter with no mint mark is in one of those high mint states, it could be very valuable even without an error. Some collectors are willing to pay top dollar just for a coin in beautiful condition. Also, it's worth mentioning that some special versions of this quarter were made just for collectors. These are called proof coins, and they were made in San Francisco. They have a shiny, mirror-like finish and were never meant to be used for spending. If you have one of those in great shape, it might be worth a little more, too. So if you ever come across a 1776 to 1976 quarter with no mint mark, take a closer look. Check if it has any strange markings or errors. See if it's in really good condition, like it was never used. You could be holding a piece of history that's also worth a lot of money. Keep watching your change, you never know what you'll find. Alright, let's talk about a much newer coin that's already making waves among collectors, the 2021 D crossing the Delaware quarter. Now, this coin came out not too long ago, but even though it's recent, some of them are already being sold for hundreds and even up to $1,000. So how is that possible? It's just a regular quarter, right? Not quite. There's a story here, and it's one that coin lovers and everyday people alike are getting really excited about. The 2021 D quarter was made right after the U.S. Mint finished the America the Beautiful series, which had special designs for each of the 50 states and U.S. territories. After that program ended in early 2021, the Mint needed to bring back something new, and they chose to celebrate a big moment from American history. So they created this special quarter showing George Washington crossing the Delaware River during the Revolutionary War. This scene is based on that famous moment from December 1776, when Washington led his troops across the icy river to surprise the enemy. That surprise attack helped turn the war around. It's a powerful image, and that's why it was chosen for this coin. Now let's talk about what the coin looks like. On the front, we see George Washington's face, just like always, but it's slightly different from the one we're used to. That's because the Mint went back to a design from 1932, which was based on a sculpture by artist Laura Garden Fraser. It's a nice detail for people who pay attention to small changes. On the back of the coin, we see Washington standing on a boat, holding his sword, while his troops row through the water. It's a bold and dramatic scene, and it really captures the feeling of that moment in history. So what makes this quarter valuable? Most of them are only worth 25 cents, just like any other quarter you'd find in your change. But a few of the 2021 D quarters, meaning they were made in Denver and have a little D mint mark, have something special going on. In some cases, there are minting errors. These are small mistakes that happened when the coin was made. For example, a few coins were struck off-center, or they have weak details in the design, or even some doubling in the letters or numbers. These types of errors are rare, and collectors love finding them. Depending on how clear and unusual the error is, one of these mistake coins can sell for a lot of money, sometimes up to $1,000. There's also the condition of the coin. If you have a 2021 D quarter that looks absolutely perfect, no scratches, no marks, and super shiny, it might get a very high grade if you send it in to a coin grading company. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and anything graded MS65 or higher can be worth more than face value. If it gets graded MS67 or MS68, it could be worth a few $100s. A perfect example might even sell for around $1,000, especially if it's a top-grade coin with an error. That's a big return for something you might have gotten in your change. People also like this coin because it's a bit of a one-year design. The Mint only used the crossing the Delaware design for part of 2021. Later in the same year, they started making the American women quarters, which had a brand new design featuring Maya Angelou. That means the 2021 quarter with Washington in the boat was only made for a short time, making it more interesting and collectible. So if you happen to get a 2021 D crossing the Delaware quarter in your change, take a close look. Check the front and back for any unusual details. See if it's in perfect shape. If it looks like something is off or it shines like brand new, it might be worth setting aside. Coins like this show us that even new change can hold surprises, and possibly some real value. Let's talk about a more recent coin that's caught a lot of attention, and for good reason. It's the 2022 D Maya Angelou quarter. This coin is part of a special new series called the American Women Quarters program. It started in 2022 and features famous women in U.S. history. Maya Angelou was the very first woman chosen for this series, and her quarter has become one of the most interesting and valuable coins from recent years. Some rare examples of this coin have sold for up to $2,000, which is amazing for a coin that's still so new. If you're wondering who Maya Angelou was, she was a famous American poet, author, and civil rights activist. She wrote books, gave speeches, and inspired people all around the world with her powerful words. One of her most well-known books is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. She was also the first African-American woman to be featured on a U.S. quarter. That makes this coin extra special, not just for collectors, but for history, too. Now let's look at the coin itself. On the front, it still has the image of George Washington, but just like the 2021 quarter, the design is a bit different. It uses the original portrait created by Laura Garden Fraser back in 1932. It looks more detailed and slightly more elegant than the Washington face we're used to seeing. On the back of the coin, you'll see Maya Angelou with her arms raised and a bird flying behind her. There's also a rising sun, which makes the whole design feel very uplifting and full of hope. It's based on her poetry, especially the famous line, "And still I rise." The design really captures her spirit. Now here's where things get exciting. Most of these quarters are being used in everyday change, so people think they're only worth 25 cents. But some of them, especially the ones with a D mint mark for Denver, are already showing up in auctions and online sales for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So why are some of them worth so much more? First, there are always collectors who want the very first coin in a new series. Since Maya Angelou was the first in this program, that makes it more desirable. But more importantly, some of these quarters have errors. For example, there have been reports of coins with doubled letters, strange marks, or even parts of the design missing. These are called minting errors, and when they happen, it makes that coin one of a kind. Collectors love rare errors like that and will often pay a lot of money to own one. Then there's condition. Just like with other coins, if you find a Maya Angelou quarter that looks absolutely perfect, no scratches, no dents, no signs of wear, it could get a very high grade from a coin grading company. Coins graded MS66, MS67, or even MS68 are extremely hard to find, especially from circulation. If someone finds one of these high-grade coins with a D mint mark, and especially if it also has an error, the value can go way up. That's where we start seeing prices around $1,000 or even $2,000. It's also worth pointing out that this coin was made to honor someone who made a real difference in American culture and history. Because of that, it has meaning beyond just being money. A lot of people want to own it because of what it represents, not just because it's rare. That helps keep demand high, which can drive prices up even more. So next time you get a quarter in your change, take a closer look. Check for that 2022 date and look for the D mint mark. Flip it over and see if it has Maya Angelou on the back. If it looks sharp, clean, and bright, or if you notice anything unusual in the design, it might be worth holding onto. A little coin like this can have a big story, and possibly even a big value. Now let's go back a little further and talk about a coin from the early 1970s that many people don't realize could be valuable. It's the 1971 Washington quarter with no mint mark. This coin is pretty common, and most people have seen one or even spent one without thinking twice. But in some rare cases, this coin has sold for thousands of dollars, up to $4,000, just because of a few important details that collectors look for. First, some quick background. The Washington quarter has been around since 1932. It shows the face of George Washington on the front, and on the back, there's a bald eagle with its wings spread out, sitting on a bundle of arrows. This design stayed mostly the same for decades. In 1971, the mint continued making these quarters as usual, and millions were produced that year. The ones made in Philadelphia don't have a mint mark under the date, which is what we mean when we say, no mint mark. These are very common coins, so by themselves, they usually aren't worth more than face value. But here's where things get interesting. Some of the 1971 no mint mark quarters are worth a lot of money because of either rare minting errors or because the coin is in amazing condition. Let's start with the errors. These can happen for many reasons. Sometimes, the die that strikes the coin gets damaged or misaligned. That can cause doubling in the letters or numbers, parts of the design being off-center, or even a missing part of the image. For example, there are 1,971 quarters with double dies, where the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," look like they were printed twice. Errors like these are rare, and collectors love them. If the coin is also in great shape, the value can go way up. Another kind of error involves coins being struck on the wrong metal planchet. Planchets are the metal discs used to make coins. Sometimes, a quarter may have been struck on a thinner or thicker planchet than normal, or even on one meant for a different coin like a dime. That kind of mistake is very unusual, and it makes the coin much more valuable. If you ever come across a 1971 quarter that feels too light or too heavy, it's worth getting it checked out. Now let's talk about condition. This is where grading comes in. Coin collectors use a scale from 1 to 70 to judge the quality of a coin. A grade of MS65 or higher means the coin looks like it just came from the mint, no scratches, no wear, and very sharp details. Coins in this kind of shape are really hard to find in circulation, especially when they're over 50 years old like the 1971 quarter. If a 1971 no mint mark quarter gets graded MS67 or better, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of these coins in mint condition with a strong strike and clean surfaces once sold for around $4,000 at auction. Most of the time, people spend these quarters without ever looking at them closely. That's why it's so exciting when someone finds one that's special. You never know what might be sitting in a coin jar, an old drawer, or even in your pocket. It's also worth checking rolls of quarters from the bank, since you can still find older coins mixed in with newer ones. So if you come across a 1971 quarter with no mint mark, take a good look at it. Hold it under the light and see if you can spot any doubling, off-center images, or other strange features. Then check to see how sharp the details are. If it looks nearly perfect, it might be something really valuable. A plain-looking quarter from 1971 could be hiding a big surprise. Let's finish with a coin that's not super old, but still has the potential to be incredibly valuable, the 1979 Washington quarter with no mint mark. Most people don't think twice about a quarter from 1979. They're still floating around in everyday change, and most of them are only worth 25 cents. But here's what a lot of people don't know, there are a few rare 1979 no mint mark quarters that have sold for thousands of dollars, one even reaching up to $10,000. And the best part is, these coins can still be found today if you know what to look for. The front of the coin looks familiar, it's George Washington's face, just like it has been since 1932. The back still shows the eagle with outstretched wings, sitting on arrows with olive branches below. The design didn't really change during this time, which makes it tricky, because the valuable ones don't look much different at first glance. But it's all about the small details. This coin was made at the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use a mint mark at the time. That's why it doesn't have a little P under the date. So if you see a 1979 quarter with no mint mark, it's from Philadelphia. Millions of these were made, so most of them are common. But a small number of them are either in extremely high condition, or they have minting errors that make them worth serious money. One of the reasons a 1979 quarter could be worth up to $10,000 is its condition. If someone found one and kept it in perfect shape, no scratches, no dents, no discoloration, it might get graded at a really high mint state, like MS67 or MS68. These grades are rare, especially for coins that are over 40 years old and were used in daily life. The higher the grade, the fewer examples there are out there. And when there are only a few in perfect shape, collectors will pay top dollar to get one. Another thing that can increase the value is if the coin has an error. Some 1979 quarters were struck with a double die, which means the design was accidentally stamped twice. You might see this in the letters or numbers, like Liberty or In God We Trust, looking kind of blurry or doubled. Sometimes, parts of the coin were pressed off-center, or the edge might be missing the ridges. These types of mint errors can turn an ordinary quarter into a rare collector's item. There's also the possibility of the coin being struck on the wrong metal. This is more unusual, but it has happened before. A coin like that would weigh a little more or less than normal. It might look slightly different in color too. If you ever find a 1979 quarter that looks or feels off, it could be something special. Getting it weighed or professionally graded could reveal a surprise. Even if your 1979 quarter doesn't have an error, and even if it's not in perfect shape, it's still worth checking. Some collectors look for coins with strong strikes and full details. These are quarters where you can clearly see all the tiny lines in Washington's hair or the feathers on the eagle's wings. If you've got one like that, it might be worth more than just face value. So the next time you're going through your change, don't skip past the quarters from 1979. Take a second and give them a good look. If there's no mint mark under the date, you might be holding a piece of history. And if it's in great shape or shows signs of an error, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. A little attention to detail could turn an everyday coin into a life-changing find. So there you have it, 5 quarters that could be worth a small fortune. Always check your change, you never know what treasures you might find. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more coin collecting insights. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting.